everyone. Got those post-Super Bowl blues? We've got the cure for what ails you. You're watching Techstrong, gang. Hi, everyone. It's Alan Schemmel. Happy Monday to you all. It's Techstrong, gang, post-Super Bowl edition. We've got some good stuff out from the webs that we're going to talk about today. Let me introduce you to who's talking about it. Our gang for today, we have some regulars, but joining us, I think she looks like she's home out there in New Mexico. She's the CEO of Deploy Hub and involved in CDF and OSSF and a bunch of other good open source stuff. It's our own Tracy Ragan. Hey, Tracy, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Alan. Great to be here.
Thank you. Moving from New Mexico down, to the west of Texas, down to the east side of Texas, down Houston way. He is a Futurum analyst, CTO at Visible Impact, Guy Currier. Hey, Guy. Good to see you, man.
Don't say Houston to an Austinite. It's Austin, Texas, Central Texas.
Did I say Houston?
Not East Texas. Yes, you did.
Well, that's
love
fighting
Houston.
words.
Love my Houston people, but I happen to live in the great city of Austin, Texas, Central Texas,
where
we get warm weather year round, whether we want it or not.
Same here. I apologize to all my friends in Austin there. I had a momentary lapse. I think it was too much Super Bowl stuff.
I was thinking you should apologize to the city of Houston, but what do I know?
Yeah, well, it had something to do with the guacamole, though, I'm sure. Anyway, Guy, wherever you're from and are, welcome.
Good to be here.
All right. And we'll move up from Houston to Austin to Colorado. Our man in the Rocky Mountains, Mitch Ashley. Hey, Mitch, how are you, man?
Good, doing good. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Platform Engineering Day. I think we're going to be talking about that. Yay, great topic.
Cool. Mitch, you're still in Colorado, right?
I am. Yes,
Yeah.
I am. I haven't moved and I'm not traveling.
He moved. All right, good for you. Well, and then we'll round it out with the man in Harrison, our Chief Content Officer, Mike Rizard. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm well. You know, I can't figure out which president Harrison is actually named after, but I'm going to look that up.
Well, what makes you think it's named after a president?
Good question. I don't know, but I've been here long enough. I should figure it out.
Yeah. Well, if it was a president, we've got William Henry Harrison. He's probably the oldest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there was another Harrison post-Civil War with the long beard.
Right.
That was William Harrison, wasn't it?
William Henry Harrison, yeah.
No, there was William Henry Harrison, I think is earlier.
I think one of them caught a cold and died. That's what I
Right.
think.
One of them died pretty quickly. Yeah, got a cold and died. Well, that would be an interesting reason to name a town after someone.
There you go, man.
All right. Well, look, report back to us on that, Mike.
Yeah, I will.
I'd ask an AI.
Get your agentic AI agents gone for it.
All right. Well, guys, before we jump into our first block, for those at home, we don't do these live if you haven't figured out. We usually record the day before. But being that this is a Monday show, we record it on Friday. Well, we've got what they call a weekend in the middle. And this weekend, as I mentioned earlier, is the Super Bowl, where the Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Philadelphia Eagles. So I thought I would do a little experiment, taking advantage of the time warp here. I'm going to ask each of you to make your prediction for the Super Bowl score and winner today here on the show. People will see it Monday and we'll see who was the closest and who wasn't. Right? It's kind of like Back to the Future. You get to play Biff. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you to lead off. What's your prediction for the Super Bowl?
All right. Realizing that I probably am not a fan of either one of these teams, but I'm going to go with the Eagles, 27-21 over the Chiefs.
Tight game, relatively low scoring. I think the over is higher than that, but okay. Mitch, how about you?
I thought you were going to record this as two different endings to the movie, like which team won, and then we can.
Well, no, I'm just doing that for mine, so I
Okay.
I come out right. But go ahead.
Well, in a typically tight score, 13-14, weird score, it came down to the Kansas City. It was Mahone at that last second to get that touchdown over the line, and the Eagles weren't able to stop them given their great defense. It was a pretty amazing game.
So it's 14-13 your score pick?
Yep.
Ooh, I love it. Tracy, how about you?
Well, it doesn't involve a hockey stick. So I don't know anything about it, but I can tell you what ChatGPT says.
Okay, well, that's as
It
good
says-
as any.
Yeah, exactly. It says, as of now, Kansas City Chiefs are slight favorites with a point spread of minus 1.5. So there you go. That's
See,
my
there you go.
prediction.
13-14 is pretty close.
So Kansas City by 1.5. I could guarantee you it won't be by 1.5. Because they
Yeah, that
don't
was
have
a
half
weird number.
points.
You
They don't have half points. I was taking candy from a baby.
But now you put this whole idea of ChatGPT as a bookie in my head, and that's a whole other thing.
Oh, it has the spread as well. So if you want to know that, let me look back again. It says a money line of minus 120.
Okay. Very cool. I'm not enough of a gambler to know what that means. I'm sorry.
I don't
I
either.
don't know that
I
one.
would know.
Oh, okay. Guy, how
clue.
about you?
I think the Chiefs by 9, 35-26 with one defensive score by the Chiefs, a takeaway and defensive score by the Chiefs. So.
All right, that sounds interesting. So I'm going to go with my heart rather than my head, which is probably not a good move when you're betting, but I'm going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles in a shootout, 42-36. A shootout. And there'll be some defensive touchdowns too here on both sides. There's going to be turnovers. I think this is going to be a high-powered game. Both teams have a good defense. Anyway, you're watching this on Monday. Look, maybe we hit it, maybe we don't. But Mike, let's move on to our first story for today. Why don't you take the reins?
Yeah, if you guys have been following what we've been doing out there, we launched a site called platformengineering.com. We invite you to go over there and check that out because there's a lot of awesome, great content starting to show up over there. And it's a hot topics these days. It's a lot of debate about exactly what it is. And there's now the CNCF has a set of certifications that you can get to become a platform engineer. And everybody's kind of trying to figure out, well, what does it mean to be a platform engineer versus, say, a DevOps engineer? Mitch, I know you're following this space and did some survey work on this last year, but what is your sense of what is the difference here? And because is platform engineering something a DevOps engineer does, or is it an actual different job with a different title and a different role?
Well, I think first of all, you have to take the certification to find out. That'll answer your question, at least according to the CNCF. No, it's interesting. Platform engineering really kind of accelerated its emergence during the post-COVID. Let's focus on developer productivity. We need to get more out, more for less, with our developer community because finances are getting tight and things like that. And some folks, it's we've been doing this all along. It's admin work, or we called it ops something or whatever. And that's true of a lot of things, right? We do many of those things and then we kind of package them together. I think the difference is we're applying different kinds of disciplines to some of those tasks. And what it's emerged to be is, first of all, making sure, in particular developers, but also testers and others have ready access to tools that they use and somewhat standardization on those. And also support of those tool environments. It's more than just hanging up a bunch of spurs on the wall and say pick your poison, go ride one of those Broncos. It's like, here, this is how we develop code, and here's the ID. You can choose your ID, but here's the plugins to use. Here's the repository, etc. But it's more than that. It's also trying to create standardized configurations, maybe more secure configurations, supporting of those things. It could be for platforms for development, for testing, for different production environments. A lot of organizations run, especially if you're a SaaS company, may run different versions of the same app, right? For different customers at different times. So it's the other area where it's really grown into is also blending and kind of merging with DevOps. A lot of platform engineering teams support all the DevOps tools too. Why separate those? It doesn't always mean it has to be that way, but it's certainly kind of easy migration to move that way. I want to highlight too, Alan has started a new podcast, the DevOps Platform Engineering Podcast with Luca. And I'm sure you'll talk about that, where they talked about, the old adage of is DevOps dead and platform engineering is taking over. There may be a few stalwarts that are holding on to that adage, but I think most of us know that's not true. It's really accelerating how we do DevOps and scaling it.
I've got some. So, Mitch, thanks for the plug. The show is called the Platform Engineering Show, right? Plain and simple. There's an interesting move here on CNCF's part, though, right? In addition to rolling out their certification, they're also, I think it's only the first or second time at KubeCon London coming up, where on Monday, 0 Day, they're actually having a platform engineering conference, as one of the conferences that they do. Usually on Monday, you get like all of the projects get to do their show. Some of the daughter foundations do a gig. And then some subjects in the past, it's been security, cloud native security, and OSSF started. This year, they're doing a platform engineering one. And from what I gathered, Chris Andrzejczyk, the CTO of Cloud CNCF, said that it's like they're one of their most popular electives for that Monday 0 Day of lineup. Actually, it might be Tuesday is 0 Day. It's Monday. Then Tuesday, no, it's Tuesday. I apologize. It is Tuesday. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the actual expo. Tuesday 0 Day, not Monday. Monday 0 Day at RSA. But the point I was trying to make, what was the point I was trying to make? The point I was trying to make is my friend Luca, that Mitchell references, Luca Galante. Luca is the kind of organizer of a community at platformengineering.org. They're the people who put on PlatformCon for the last couple of years. And it's probably the single biggest platform engineering conference. It's virtual. Oh, this year it'll be hybrid. In the world, they get 25, 30,000 people registered for that thing. They've got about 200 to 300,000 people on their community chat and, all of that. They have all kinds of working groups and reference architectures and everything else. One of the things they have is a training certification course in platform engineering. So here we go again. The battle of the certs. Is the CNCF the right cert for you if you want to be a platform engineer? Is the platformengineering.org certification or course the right one for you? Do you want to get both of them? Interesting. Usually these break off into the commercial versus non-commercial, the vendor versus the org kind of thing. But here you've got two not-for-profits, two communities with dueling orgs for what is, according to Mike and Mitch, maybe not as well as not as defined as some of the others. So, I don't know. I mean, CNCF kind of has a bit of a Midas touch, right? From there.
Yeah. Don't these things tend to run on vibes, though? Like, you guys have been paying attention this far longer than I have. I feel like, could be, a movement, whether it's an anti-CNCF movement or just a pro-platform engineering movement because of whatever. Like, the purpose, there's a good, helpful purpose in this education certification. It's a way of someone saying, I've studied, I know, right? But the reason they're doing it is to get a job, to get a promotion, what have you. And the reason they're accepted is so that people hiring you can have confidence. And that can come from multiple organizations. It's just by vibes, I mean, there seems to be some sentiment that comes out of the soup of culture and just a community and all that stuff. And one becomes the one and another one disappears or becomes the other one. It's as random as that. No, that neither of these organizations is going to do a poor job of training and certifying.
Well, I will tell you, platformengineering.org, I mean, certainly today has a much larger community of platform engineers anyway than perhaps CNCF does.
That's one of the things I was thinking, Alan, too. Probably know the community better than I do, but it seems that the platformengineering.org community is a very fervent, passionate, engaged community, and kind of like early DevOps days, but maybe even more so. Just a really strong vibe
Yeah,
going
no,
on
they've
there.
done a good job of organizing Luca
Yeah.
and the team there.
That may propel it to be the leading certification. Maybe it'll be unique and different that way. Maybe enterprises will look more to CNCF. Who knows what'll
You
happen?
know, I think the platform engineering certification, though, is more, more of the unconference, unconventional. You may be able to just take the test and not get the certification, but I took the test kind of thing. Because, there's some people revolt with the idea of having a certification, they're too
Yeah.
structured. Down with the man.
A lot of them will say that the test is just people who are good at taking the test, pass the test.
Oh,
But
it's a DEI thing. It's a DEI thing.
so
That's where my head goes immediately when I think of certifications. It's like, I was someone who's gotten their hands dirty and done this. And even if it's in their own environment, they stood up a Raspberry Pi and they've been installing things and figuring out how to configure it and understanding how to start automating some of the configurations. So it doesn't, it gets certified. It's a really good thing to do, especially if this is an area that you've not been in before. But we've had operations people and production control people for forever, right? They've been there forever. So why is platform engineering a discussion now? Well, I'm glad it is, because we have far more complex production environments, or any environment, test development environments, than we ever did before. If you think about a monolithic application being deployed to a Windows server, for example, it's pretty straightforward and simple. And you can have either an SRE managing that. You can have a production control person or a network engineer even managing that. But when you start thinking about the complexity that we're going to see, that we already see in just a Kubernetes environment, and then add AI to it with hundreds of AI agents that have to be configured, with traffic going to all of them that has to be looked at and managed on a regular basis, we are in a new world when it comes to production control and what we're calling platform engineering. And it's good that if it's true what Mitch has pointed out, that we may have DevOps and platform engineering in the same department, or at least working close together. I would love to see that, because these platforms are built on a lot of scripts. And that's where we shoot ourselves in the foot or the face sometimes. Can be even more dangerous, right? Because scripts are obfuscated. They're hard to go look through. And if we start doing more things in a templated way when it comes to platform engineering, we think of things like Terraform and OpenTofu, these products that are trying to help us through the process of templating and understanding and being able to repeat the creation of these environments, the better we'll get and the more prepared we will be for these broad AI environments. And it'll give us a better opportunity, if we choose to move off of a AWS environment and into our own. So the time is right, the conversation is correct, and go get certified, because if you haven't done this before, we'll have more jobs in it. And the Ortelius team, this has been such a discussion for them. One of our committers did a series of 8 blogs just to teach how to use all of these different tools. And there's a lot to learn in it. So get your hands.
I'm so glad you used you mentioned the SRE, because I felt like SRE had its moment, and SREs were mountain striding, infrastructure gods and goddesses who went around saying, like, we are going to make your environment secure and solid and reliable and all that stuff. So you keep doing all your fun DevOps stuff. And I was a little confused by it, mostly because of the name. And my impression was that the idea of the platform engineering as a discipline arose helpfully out of site reliability engineering because it reached up into what really matters, which is the application, its functionality, and what people are trying to do with it and with data. And Rami Yengar from Cloud Foundry posted a really nice perspective about how the phrase platform engineering seems like marketing, but engineering a platform definitely is not. And I feel like that name and that phrase, marketing or not, gives us a really good focus on what is needed in this, as you say, increasingly complex, interconnected, multi-requirement, hosted requirement world for any application, which is somebody who is going to be not ensuring the reliability and functioning of an infrastructure, but someone who is engineering a platform to serve the business interest.
So I disagree. It
yeah.
is, Guy, they
Good.
do have to do, that platform has to be reliable.
Sure,
So
but
here-
that becomes that, it almost subsumes the SRE function within the platform engineering.
SREs, so look, these are all interrelated under this bigger umbrella that I call DevOps. But I've had a chance as part of doing this platform engineering show and talking to the platform engineering org people and some of the community there. It's not as nebulous as you think it is, and it's not necessarily just ops by another name and stuff like that. And it's not meant to replace DevOps in spite of what they said from a marketing perspective. Here's the deal as far as they see. DevOps is great, right? The whole kumbaya, the whole cultural, the whole idea of breaking down silos, working together. When you get to large scale, it's hard to organize that chaos. And increasingly with DevOps, there was this shift left, shift it further left, not left enough, shift it more left, where all of a sudden the mantra became where the developer is building his own platform that he develops on. And that's when the stuff hit the fan. The developer shouldn't be tasked with building the platform they develop on. And wouldn't it be better if someone who is supposed to, who's certified, who is trained, who is experienced, building a platform with the guardrails that allows the developer to then just develop. He doesn't have to build his platform or her platform. They develop their code, their apps, and they go faster. So
I'm just not sure where we're disagreeing, Alan,
So
because I
I
agree
would-
with all of that.
I would argue to a certain degree, you will get a lot of folks who would say that's exactly how it used to be back in the day. And then the developer guys rebelled and said, we're going to go out and build our own tools and platforms because you guys are too slow. And now it feels like we're coming full circle. So people are standing there.
isn't that
scratching
the
their
way
head
of the
going,
world?
It's
That
always been that
started
way.
around 1970 with the PDP-11.
Yeah,
we've
it's the
always done
circle
that.
of life. It's the circle of life.
But there's a
circle of
part
life.
of it. There's a part of this discussion about who's accountable. So for most of you out there listening, I'm sure you will know and experience this, is that if there is a production problem, who gets called to look at it and fix it? It's the application team. Even though they don't have access to production, they have somebody else who might be sitting there with them trying to sort out the problem. So we created a site reliability engineer who could have more control, but they were assigned to a team. But as Alan points out, they were also having them do the hard work of actually building out the platform. So there is something that we used to talk about called separation of duties, right? So we've constantly tried to achieve that separation of duties by having an SRE who might have production access, and he's the person sitting on that team working with them.
Yep.
That person should still be there. But there should be another team that is managing the platform itself. These are very different discussions.
I
The
agree.
platform is different than the application that they're managing. So we need the platform engineers to start standardizing and stabilizing these environments in order for us to move forward. We can't move forward without having that.
You know,
I
there's
gotta-
another thing happening
Go ahead,
here
Mitch.
too, Alan. I just want to note that obviously talk to a lot of vendor technology companies in my role, and as does Guy, and more sort of platform engineering advocate is the new DevRel. It is the focus of companies because things come together at platform engineering where it's developer tools, it's Kubernetes running in production or running underneath the tool chain. Security is starting to kind of connect there as well. I'm not saying it's the center for all activity, but it is a connection point now. And we kind of lacked that before when developers were creating platforms and doing all the supposedly operations themselves, but not. And so it's the market has responded to, I think, what's happening in the development community. Just as an example, the latest one I was at Dynatrace last week. Dynatrace Performance. You remember Andreas Grabner, our friend at the CNCF? He's at Dynatrace. He's now advocate for platform engineering. He gave a whole talk about it, and that's clear as I talked to different people at the conference.
That was
That's
Stack
very much
State,
ignored.
wasn't it, Mitch? Wasn't Andreas CEO
He
at
was
Stack
at
State?
Borland, and then I can't remember where he was before.
Well, out of the Netherlands
Yeah.
with some of our the CloudBees marketing. Some of the
Yeah.
folks from there moved over there.
And
It was
by
Stack
the way,
State.
who else was they? Someone else was there that I saw. Anyway, there were some old friends that we have, good folks that we have on different things. Anyway, the point was, it was a whole main stage conversation. They're talking about platform engineering, and they're
Well,
also
it
moving.
is main stage. Guys, we got to move on to our next topic. I'm going to take the prerogative here to have the last word. You know what? All these people you're talking about work in the software factory, right? Kind of father knows best. Dad went off to work in the factory. And they all work in the factory, and there's a job there for all of them. And it takes the village to build our software and run it today. So we have SREs and platform engineers and DevOps teams and developers and testers and all of the things we need to make software what it is until AI comes along. And I'm only kidding. I don't know what AI is going to do. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a minute.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
Hey folks, we're back and we're going to continue this conversation a little bit with a little more focus on DevOps specifically, because there's a lot of debate out there now about, well, does DevOps scale? Is it broken? Other folks say, hey, look at all the great software we're putting out there because of DevOps. So maybe two things can be true at the same time, even though they're at polar opposites. But we have a survey over on DevOps.com done by Port Inc. They are a provider of a internal developer platform, so they definitely have a stake in this conversation. And they only talk to, very high-end teams, but they found out that, well, developers are wasting a lot of time. And more troubling still, it suggested that half of them don't trust the data that's actually in the DevOps platforms and tools. And that kind of stuck out with me as like, well, if I'm not trusting those tools, then what am I doing? Just calling up people and asking them where things are? Doesn't sound very efficient to me. But Tracy, I know you've talked about this in the past where DevOps is broken. But the question, I think, is how broken, where is it broken, and what can we do to make it better?
Well, I wouldn't say DevOps is broken, but I would say that DevOps needs a bit of a tune-up. But going back to that survey, I read through that survey, and sometimes things don't feel right to me, and it may be. But one thing in there said that an average number of tools was 7. And I'm thinking, 7? Just 7 tools? Is that
700.
all?
I think it's missing 2 digits, Tracy.
At least 1 digit, right? At least 1 digit. I mean, I probably can come up with 7 tools right now just thinking about what, are in common DevOps pipelines.
Takes
If you
7
think
tools
about
to manage the 70 or 700.
Yes, right,
Yeah.
right. So
Maybe it's 7 approved tools and the rest are whatever I can find.
well, there are so many, and that's the whole point of a DevOps pipeline. so that you can manage the tooling. Now, I know there's been similar tools that Port does, like TaskTop, and I do know that there is, having a layer that helps make this stuff easier is important. But I still don't feel like having 7 tools is a problem. So I had to question. It made me question the data
Just
in
so
the
what
survey.
the whole thing, yeah.
So,
I'm
but
sorry, go
DevOps
ahead, Tracy.
DevOps does need to we're at a point that DevOps needs 2 things. We need to add security tooling to it, and we need to start adding what we need to do for testing, LLMs and MLOps. So while I, question the survey, I want to point out that we do have a lot more tooling that we need to add to the DevOps pipeline, and 7 is probably a very small number. And if you only have 7 tools, you may not even need a DevOps pipeline.
Yeah, but I felt, Tracy, like it was like bad data supporting a good point or something like that. I don't want to call it bad
No, it
data.
was a
I don't know how they
self-fulfilling
conducted the survey.
prophecy.
So yeah,
That's
fair enough. But the point is, like, I think the contention that developers and specifically, this is 7 tools to build, whatever build means. It doesn't mean to deploy or any of that sort of thing, like, necessarily. But the general idea that there are a lot of multiplying tools, or let's say use the word platforms again, that developers are navigating on average, instead of having something that's a little more integrated and seamless, if you like. That is kind of an issue. There's a lot of BYO. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, and the survey attempted to validate it in a poor way, but I think it's a real issue.
so
I do
let me-
too,
let me- let me-
100%.
Trace, I don't disagree with you, and Guy, I don't disagree with you either. But
This-
let
that's
me
a-
just
that's-
get
that's a
this
setup for
straight.
on
I
Let me
disagree
just
with
get
that,
this
Alan.
straight.
Hang on, I got to write in my diary real quick.
All right. let me just get this straight. A software vendor who makes an internal developer portal puts out a survey that says developers say the problem is they've got too many tools. They could use a portal to help manage it because they don't believe the data and metrics in the tools and platforms they're using. They wish they had a portal to use. And what do I sell? A portal. Come on, you want to talk about self-serving much?
I think we already established that point. The point
Well, I
is,
just want to make sure we hit it with a
point-
big fat sledgehammer.
the point is, in fact, we wouldn't be talking about platform engineering if everything was hunky dory in the land of DevOps. So
Well,
things are
but
not.
that's okay. It
So what-
doesn't have to be hunky dory. Life isn't that way. It's not all unicorns crapping rainbows. That's not the way the world works. There's going to be issues. There's going to be problems. We keep working at it. We constantly improve, continuous improvement, right? Iterate, reiterate. Now, that being said, here's where I do think you have problems in the DevOps toolchain. As you get to the enterprise level and you're at enterprise level DevOps, it is a very rare bird indeed where you have a standardized tool set, whether it's 7 or 70. You don't have standardization of tool sets in your DevOps toolchain because this team chooses to use Jenkins. This team might be doing GitLab. That team's doing Harness. Testing, I'm doing Tricentis. I do Sauce. I do Pure Open. I'm running Coop here. I'm running VMware there. It's the enterprise. We don't have standardization of our tool sets.
Well, Alan, just keep in mind the punchline here, which is supposedly 15 hours of lost productivity per developer per week.
But if they use a portal, that gets cut by 90%.
Well, yeah, sure, but that's the who cares part of it, because one part is that it's a culture of innovation, freedom, trying things out, break fast, all that others. You do want to enable that. So is it really 15 hours of wasted based on what? What's the
I don't
what's the
think it's
point?
15 hours wasted, but here's the point in my mind. There's this eternal combat between let's get efficient, let's slim down. I want one throat to choke. I want less tools. We got too many different software here, too many different security tools, too many different DevOps tools. We've got to, it's wasteful, it's inefficient. We've got to standardize. We've got to standardize until I buy the next company and they have their own way and they dig their heels in that they're not going to, this is what they use to go change something. It's going to be a major to do. It's the way DevOps evolved, right? DevOps very rarely came from the top down enterprise-wise. My theory always was DevOps came in bubbles. And like when you're a kid playing in the bath with bubbles, as bubbles come together, they make bigger bubbles, and then they get bigger bubbles, and then they pop. And that's how DevOps evolved, and that's how DevOps rolls out in enterprises. There are these bubbles of teams that use their own recipe.
And I think sometimes the mistake that we make is thinking about DevOps as tooling. When if we really built a DevOps framework, it wouldn't be based on the name of the tool. It would be based on what we're trying to achieve at each state in the process. So a compliance scorecard, for example, so that every team can build their own DevOps pipeline because one's doing Java, one's doing Python, somebody else is doing Rust. Because these environments are very, very different. The compilers are different, the tools are different. But you can still define your compliance levels that you need to achieve. And we will end up with lots of tools. It's just going to happen. And there's probably another 10 tools that we're missing in the pipeline just to add for security, from repo scanning and signing to gathering data to doing vulnerability management on post-deploy. There's a lot of work we still have to do. But every single environment is going to be a little bit different. Even an SBOM is different.
Let me share
right?
just a
Every
little bit of
environment.
data with you just to give some perspective, because I'm wrapping up a new survey that'll be out probably in about 3 weeks. But we asked organizations, where are you on the maturity curve, both for DevOps and for platform engineering? And interesting, they're almost exactly the same in terms of the phases. The way I've always characterized it as, other than, once you're past the getting started phase, you go into kind of operationalizing how you're using it. Different teams are doing different things and learnings. And then you enter this standardization phase where you start to boil it together, right? Especially in the larger organizations. Eventually you get to what you might consider your own level of mastery. And both for platform engineering and for DevOps, they're both right about 44-45% in that standardizing phase. This is at the same point in time. At the same time, they both say they're about 25 to 26% in the mastering phase. So they're really in sync. And I think that's not by accident. These are talking to the same organization. So I think they're moving together. And fortunately, I think that also says that DevOps isn't staying stagnant, whether it's platform engineering kind of bringing it up, modernizing it, or they're both just heading in parallel in their kind of paths and working together. Whatever the reason, I think it's a good outcome. But that's what the data says.
All right. I'm launching a new platform engineering platform. I'm going to call it Mr. Bubbles. Okay.
You like that? I
just
think
wanna know
someone
where
already had that name.
I just want to know. I don't want to know the source of those bubbles, Alan. But that's all another thing.
Oh, you never played with Mr. Bubbles when you were a kid? You didn't have Mr. Bubbles?
Yeah, but I know that's not the only places those bubbles come
It
from.
was like a little purple box with all the bubbles. He had eyes, like googly eyes. And your mom would pour the powder in. It would make all those
Oh,
bubbles.
As long as they're
Mitch, I
purple
feel so
bubbles,
sorry
we're
for
good.
you if you didn't have a night with Mr.
Okay. There's some things we just didn't have out there in the cornfields where I grew up.
Oh heavens, the cornfields, yeah.
I didn't
Look,
grow up in the cornfields.
Meanwhile,
Guy,
I'm thinking
you
of
had
scrubbing
Mr.
bubbles
Bubbles.
this whole
Tell
time.
the truth, guy. You didn't have Mr. Bubbles?
Oh, I had Mr. Bubbles.
Yeah, come
sure.
on.
Yes,
Mike, you had
Mr.
Mr.
Bubbles.
Bubbles?
Of course we had.
I also had scrubbing
how else would I
bubbles
know and use
afterwards.
the name? So of course we had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's all we got.
What can I tell you? All right.
Let's take
Let's
that
take a break
just
on
explains
this
a lot
one.
of thing about Nebraska. There you go.
That does. Poor guy. Never had Mr. Bubbles. Imagine that. No wonder why you were making jokes about other bubbles. Necessity's the mother of invention out there.
Just
Um,
saying. Just saying.
Okay, we're going to take a break. This is degrading quick. Let's get it together. We'll come back for part 3 of our episode today. You're watching Techstrong, gang.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
All right, folks, and we're back with more IT issues. And this time we're talking about the eternal quest for the unified IT platform. And you got to wonder if this is a unicorn or not. But JumpCloud has an annual survey out talking about how this is what folks really want. I'm just not entirely clear it's going to ever be possible. Guy, you've been following this a long time now. We have more tools and platforms across all IT. It's not just DevOps or platform engineering. Is that just the way it's going to be, or can it one day get rationalized into some Uber platform?
Without mentioning AI, no. Maybe with mentioning AI, no. I think, how many times have we heard the pitch for the so-called single pane of glass? 1,000 times? 2,000 times? I think that back in the day, I led most of my Forrester research. There was a really helpful shift to thinking, instead of the single pane of glass, the preferred workspace. And thanks to the cloud and the rise of the API economy and all that other sort of stuff, we do have real possibilities there. So let's back up a step. I read the story, and the specifically it was for device and role management and identity management, that there was a desire for a single tool, a unified tool. But it does bring to mind the perpetual, because there are other surveys about this, right? I just conducted one myself, where there's a strong desire for unified management, let's say. Forget about tool per second or pane of glass or portal, unified management of, let's say, service health or infrastructure health or whatever it is. Here's what's working against it. 2 things, really. The first one is IT itself is not unified particularly. There's security experts and networking experts who are close to each other but have different agendas and need their preferred tools to help, or their preferred single platforms. There's identity management, device management, which are related to security. They're all related to each other. But even in a small shop, there will be, for example, vendors and consultants who are helping to manage certain elements of it that whoever you happen to have in your IT shop can't do or shouldn't do, or you don't want to hire to do. So you're having multiple roles here, and even a lot of these, really comprehensive IT service management platforms like ServiceNow or DMC and so on and so forth, they struggle to unify operations for the simple reason that as this is the second part, which is that as the nature of infrastructure and application delivery and so forth evolves, there are new specialty tools that come up because the big unifying tools can't do everything everywhere. So the API economy helps put all these together, but I think the idea of unifying is the unicorn, and maybe a helpful North Star for everybody to think about how to manage their entire estate and their whole landscape. How to put things together so that people, individuals, and talents that they have on staff, as well as developers, as well as business users to a certain degree, can all have their way of doing their jobs that still somehow interacts together with each other. But that is complexity, and it will be a perpetual struggle in every operations team to make things easier for the users, easier for them. AI does show real promise in this area because it can do analytics, including predictive analytics on very large data sets. So a large estate doesn't really phase it particularly, and it helps concentrate the human operators on the areas of the most interest and concern, whether it's device management and security or system health or any of those other sort of things. But in the end, unless we go down the route that Satya Nadella told us, that we're just going to have our AI buddies and we're not even going to be using portals anymore, which is not even a unicorn, it's a mirage. No, we're not going to get there.
Well, if you aren't aware that February 28th this month is when we have the Great Planet Parade, and that's when we'll have a unified platform. It's when we have Neptune and Pluto, I guess, and all the other planets lining
Pluto's
up.
not a planet, Mitch.
It is. It's still a planet, damn it. And
In Nebraska it is, I guess, where they don't have Mr. Bubbles, but
either that or it won't matter anyway, because in 2032 an asteroid's going to hit Earth, and even if we had the platform, we won't be here to enjoy it. But no, actually, I did find there is one platform to rule them all. It's called Precious.
Oh, okay. The One Ring is not a unicorn. It's the one
the
platform.
Lord of the Rings.
This is the pendulum conversation, right? We need one platform. We need more tools.
Oh, I'm
more
hypnotized.
diversity, more creativity.
I don't think it's a pendulum, Mitch. I think that this desire, it has been perpetual. You ask people, you've talked to customers probably more than I do. I talked to a fair number of IT ops folks, and they all want it. But then when you dig in a little bit and find out what the one platform is they want, it's actually the one platform that covers this part of the infrastructure.
Is it
and all
from
this other sort of stuff.
Is it from Microsoft or is it from Azure? Okay, let's
Well,
decide that
there's-
first. Right?
I don't know if it's one platform they're looking for. I think what they really want is a single place to go to find out what tools they can use, right? Because there's more than, a handful, as this survey indicates. And we've done that. We've had CMDBs in the past where you could say, hey, I'm going to go stand up my environment and I'm going to download this version of Oracle. Or tools like Bitnami that, made an effort to pull together, this is where you can go find these on these different repos. And I feel like that's really what they were talking about, more than having a single platform, one ring to rule them all. And I understand that desire, but we've done it, and I don't think anybody's going to spend money on it internally. I don't.
let me see if I can bring some order to the chaos here.
I think you were going to say something else, but go ahead.
No. So
Cut through the anyway.
yeah, let me cut through to the heart of this. First of all, shout out to Jump Cloud for doing this, right? For those who don't know, Jump Cloud is founded and CEO'd by my good friend Rajat Bhargava. Raj, Mitchell, and I co-founded Still Secure 25 plus years ago. I've been involved in Jump Cloud on a personal level since the day they started it, and know a lot about who they are, and what they do. And I'll shout out to Greg Keller too, their chief strategy officer, another friend there who does great work. So hi to Greg and Roger if they're watching. Jump Cloud wants to have a directory that rules them all, right? They think AD, Active Directory, it doesn't work in the cloud era. It doesn't work with Macs so well. It doesn't work with cloud resources. It doesn't work with IoT, with machine. AD has had its day, and they want a cloud directory. It's a directory to rule them all. And why having that directory is not just identity based, so that when you log on, I know it's Mike or Guy or Tracy or Mitch, but it also makes it very easy then to give you access to my tools, to your tools that are pre-approved on the corporate LAN, right? Maybe it's that 7.4 tools we spoke about on the last segment. And you know, I don't want to use the word single sign-on, but single sign-on, right? And so does that sound appealing, that no matter what device you're on, where you are, I could sign on and automatically get access to my tool sets and files and everything I want? Yeah, surprise, 85% of people want that. Shocking. Shocking.
Well, I think the issue comes more towards, and I remember having this conversation last year with a CIO in New York who was particularly colorful about it. And he was saying, the problem with every time I get a new friggin' tool is I got to go hire somebody else to go manage that tool. And then everything, the costs all go up. So he's like, you come to me with a new tool. He says, forget about it. I don't want to hear about no more new tools.
Was he a CIO or is he a construction guy?
He's
man?
a
Drop them over here.
He's a hardcore New Yorker who was not having it anymore. And he was saying, I have these platforms, and if I need something, I'm going to beat them up to give it to me as a feature, but I am not adding any more new tools. He was
Use guys in your tools. Use
See,
guys.
tools.
I think we're
tools.
talking about two different things, though, because one that you're talking about, Alan, and I think you've touched upon as well, Tracy, is features, capabilities, them being cross-platform, integrated, that sort of thing. My lens on this is really the operations standpoint. I think I know the desire for single tools or unified tools comes from a craving for visibility and an ability to be proactive, because what none of these folks want, CIO, VP of ops or infrastructure, application managers, enterprise architects, they dread the midnight call. They don't want the midnight call anymore. And what they fear is that they have these 6 tools and these 6 people on the 6 tools, but then tool number 7 happened to have a yo-yo working that day and didn't see something. And the comprehensive idea is that they can organize all of it in one place and see everything going on in one place, and they get the little red lights in advance and they help fix it, and they're being proactive, and they get few or no of those. What happens? Something's down. Everybody's got to pile in and figure it out. I think that's what it's really from the operations standpoint that this desire for unification comes from, is to get a full and complete view, not of what's happening now or what happened just a minute ago, but how to ensure service health for the whole stack going forward. And every time you add a tool, you're not just adding a person, you're adding an interaction point, a potential weak link in the chain, all that sort of stuff. That's it, and they hate that. They hate that part of the job.
And the time when this is the most critical to have this kind of a unified platform is when you're onboarding new employees. You want them to be able to come into work and in a few days have everything that they need. And, I've seen organizations take 2 or 3 weeks for a single developer to get all the tools that they need, because it takes so long to figure out what it is that they should have. So there's a point in time that this becomes super critical, and then you forget about it.
Yeah. No,
And I
I
think we're back
and I
to
think that is
unified-
the jump cloud kind of vision right there, Tracy. Guy, listening to you, I'm reminded of back when I was in Interliant in the late 90s. We were in ASP, and we had this whole lineup of apps we were hosting: Oracle, PeopleSoft, Onyx, late 90s apps, pre-cloud. And we were trying, and we actually called it a miracle layer that would sit below all these apps and let us manage them, provision them, build them, do everything from a unified platform, and that we would be able to plug more applications into as, they pop up. It's a bit of a holy grail. I don't know if we ever quite find that.
I think we're really talking about 2 things. One is, there is no one tool that's going to solve all the problems. Yeah, it just not. Even if there was, it wouldn't stay that way, right? Something else would come along that would disrupt it. So we really have 2 things. We have portals that help you with that onboarding. Here's the set of tools. Here's the capabilities. Here's all the stuff you need to kind of get started, right? You don't have to go looking for tools. The other trend is towards what you're talking about, Alan, which is platforms, which isn't one thing to rule them all. What they are is a set of pre-integrated capabilities, usually from one vendor, that also shares data across those tools. So and also between the integration and the data, you're spending less time in the tools management, integration, support business. But they all have to have very rich integration capabilities, and not just lip service to integration to third-party tools, because people use other stuff. Maybe there's testing capabilities in the platform, but I'm a Tracentis customer. We've already got all of our stuff built into that, or to whatever tool for security, et cetera. There are some things that you want one of. You want one directory, or at least a federated set of directories, right? You want one identification or ID management of people, devices, things like that. You want one sign-on. Well, there's a capability to kind of tie those things together across applications, but even those aren't one platform, right? Those are oftentimes things that are tied together.
I don't know if I agree. I think the single platform's a chimera. I think that being able to manage AD plus Jump Cloud plus whatever in one place is both possible and desirable. It's just when you start, when you start to add more and more things that you're all seeing in one place, like you say, even if you succeed, innovation, puts that out of date. But yeah, but I don't think it's settling on. I mean, that's one approach, the single source approach, settle on one directory, just stick with that. But also being able to add or use other directories and identity systems, while still without having to add a separate way to operate them. That's more the goal here.
And I just want to open up an issue in GitHub so my platform engineer can set my environment up and I don't have to think about the directory. I want to be served my environment, and that's
absolutely. Well,
is an important
but
topic.
doesn't that go back to like when I first got involved in tech? That was the mantra of IT. Our customers are the employees, the developers, and we serve our customers. It's an internal customer. Changed over the years, but it's still true. Anyway, guys, we're over time. I got to pull the plug. What a great Monday back to work week. I still think we should have a national holiday after the Super Bowl. But we hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got a ton of great Techstrong TV following this today, so check that out. But until tomorrow, on behalf of the gang, have a great day, everyone. We're out of here.